Well, y'all, this thing has been giving me fits for a long time now, so I think it's just time to figure it out. I've got a lot of brush cutting to do with it on the next two jobs, and I want to try to get this thing figured out so I don't have to sit there and listen to it beep for hours and hours. So just to give y'all a recap on what I've already done, I should have videoed it, but I didn't. I just got busy and I wanted to try to get it done. The brush cutter had some issues. All the bolts was broke out of the top of the basically the it's not the PTO, but basically the drive shaft. I can't even think of what it's called right now, but anyway, all the bolts was broke out of it. So basically the thing was just sitting on top of the brush cutter that has the stump jumper and the blades mounted on it. Why can I not think of the name of what it's called? It's the drive unit. I don't know what my problem is, but all the bolts were broke out of it. We had to take the blades off, take the stump jumper off. When I finally got under there to see how those bolts was through there, because I couldn't see it from the bottom of the brush cutter, they had them welded on there. So I had to cut all that stuff loose, put new bolts in it. It's 5/8 bolts with lock nuts on it. Put all that on there, got all that squared away, and I ran it, with the new blades and everything. I put bigger blades on it, or beefier, they're heavier, so the thing's got a lot more inertia now. It cut great, cut really good, but of course this thing is alarming. Like after 5 minutes it just starts beeping, and I had to take it. I finally took it to Caterpillar this morning because they said, yeah, bring it and they can hook up to it. They hooked up to it and they told me what all it was faulted. It wound up being a high temperature engine coolant high temperature fault, which that kind of worries me, but at the same time I'll get into it later. It gave a high flow solenoid fault. I knew the high flow doesn't work on it. It never worked on it when I bought it. I just didn't know it until after I bought it, until like months later that I got a brush cutter to know that it was either in high flow, not working. I hope that's going to be not that bad. He said more than likely that's just a broke wire or something, along with that, and the coolant issue could just be a sensor, because I've ran the dog out of this thing with that thing alarming, because I'm like, if something was wrong, then the machine would either shut down or whatever, but it hasn't. He said, and it started alarming at like 400 something hours. Well, there's 1,300 hours on it now. I would think that if it had an actual issue, that I'd have done melted the engine. It would have done seized up. And also, why I didn't think anything was wrong is we put coolant in this thing at like 400 hours. To me, if it had a blown head gasket, it's usually about the only thing other than the thermostat. I did get a new thermostat. It using no coolant and no smoke or anything, it just didn't lead me to think that there's another issue other than it could be a thermostat. It could be the temperature sensors right here. I did get a new one of them, and the radiator, he said the radiator could be clogged up, but so that's what I'm going to do now, or in this video. I'm going to replace the temperature sensor. I got a new thermostat, and I'm going to flush the radiator first and just see what's all that's about. And it does have a new fuel filter and a new oil filter. It's got new oil in it. I did change all that the other day, which I did have a time with that fuel filter because the new one wasn't exactly right. So anyway, that's a whole nother story. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to figure out where this drain cock up is on it. They say it's right down here on the right side of the engine, down off in there somewhere. I gotta find it. I'm gonna drain the coolant out of it, fill it back up with fresh water, let it run, drain it back out, put some I know I'm talking a lot, but radiator flush in it. It's got the instructions on how to do that, and I'm gonna run that through it and just make sure the radiator isn't clogged up, or you know, any issues kind of there first. And then I'm going to go ahead and change the sensor out in the thermostat, and then I'll see where I'm at with that. And if I still have issues, I'm gonna pop the cab. Well, I'm gonna pop the cab anyway, because the guy at the parts counter, he was nice enough to give me a print to show me where the high flow solenoid is, and I can check it real quick. I knew where the solenoid or the valve bank is, but I didn't know which is which, so now I do. So I can pull those solenoids off, swap them around, you know, check them with a meter, whatnot. So let's get into this. All right, y'all, I think I found it. Let's see if I can shine a light in here. I don't know if y'all can see. There's a drain cock. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. There's a drain cock right, well, right there. You can barely see it. It's casting a shadow, actually. I'm gonna turn that, open that up, and there's a hose that runs right here, and it had a plug on it right here. So let me open that up and see if that's the coolant. It should be. All right, that is the coolant drain cock. I opened it and only a little bit came out, and I was like, oh crap, this thing ain't got no coolant in it. Then I realized I didn't take the radiator cap off to let it drain. So and I gotta drain that out. I'm just gonna take it off the bottom there, let it drain on out. It said it didn't hold about 2 gallons, a little over 2 gallons. Seems like it holds more than that though, so we shall see. Well, there's only about a half a bucket there, so I guess it is only about 2 gallons. I'm gonna pour some water in the radiator and just make sure. I gotta fill it up with water anyway and run it and do all that nonsense. So I've come across something interesting. Like, this is the fluid that kind of spilled out from the overflow reservoir. Y'all can see the orange kind of, and then there's orange. Of course, that bucket had a little bit of oil with it, so that's kind of what we're seeing there, but it was definitely more orange looking, and this was purple that come out of here. So it's almost like this thing never was really overflowing and then sucking it back in, maybe. And it also seemed like only that much came out. Now it's probably close to maybe 3 gallons. It seemed like I had to put more water in it that actually came out. So I wonder if it was low to begin with, but that right there always showed good. I don't know. I got it full of water now, fresh water. I'm gonna crank it up and let it run for a little bit, let it circulate through that radiator, and drain it back out and see what it looks like. All right, I'll just let it run for about 10-15 minutes. I believe the thermostat opened. I can feel it getting pretty warm right there, so I'm going to drain this water out and see what it looks like. I'll sit up right here. It looks pretty clean, actually. It's really clean. That's a good thing. I thought maybe this hose right here was stopped up, but I blew through it, and you know, I don't know, it could have been too. I couldn't see the top of it when I blew it out, but I could blow through it. So I'm gonna drain this and then add my radiator flush to it, fill it back up, and I figure what I'll do then is I'm gonna pull it outside and give it about half throttle and let it sit there and run 20-30 minutes. Make sure it flushes through the engine real good. It says do it for 3 to 6 hours, but that's a long time running a machine. So if it was a car, that ain't no big deal, but I ain't got time for all that. So of course, don't look at the color of this, because this had oil in it. There's a good gallon difference of when I filled it up versus what come out of it. I just poured this bucket into this one, and this is the fresh water that come back out of it. Of course, it's got a little bit of, you should have a little bit of the old stuff in there, so that's okay. It actually looks pretty clean. It just looks low. I'm not sure why it wasn't pulling from the reservoir there. I tell you, me and my coolant issues. Anybody remembers the 309? But anyway, I'm going to put my radiator flush in it now. I got my two sidekicks with me. They're supervising. All right, so I've had it outside running about 30 minutes now. I gave it about 3/4 throttle the whole time to make sure that it was getting hot, and it never did alarm. So I guess that's, to me, that rules out an actual overheating issue, because you let it run 30 minutes at 3/4 throttle. If you got an overheating issue, because usually you could run it for about 5 minutes and it would start alarming. So it should not be overheating, actually. And I hate to say it, but I hope that it was just because the coolant was low, because whenever it would really fault or whatever is when I got on a little bit of a incline or whatever, so the machine was tilted one way or the other. But here's the thing about it too, it would usually stop if the machine was tilted straight up and down a good bit. It would, even after it started alarming, and if I would get on a good little incline and stay more front to back, the alarm would quit. So it tells me that it's either some type of level sensor, or if the coolant was low and it got tilted up, that would bring more coolant back. I don't know. I hope that, I don't think the radiator was plugged up, judging by the water that come out of it. I'm gonna let that cool down just a minute, because she is piping hot. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the sensor and thermostat in it. I didn't get out there and run it because I don't want to just yet. I want to go ahead and change this stuff regardless, and then I'll get out there and run it and try it and see what it does then. So let me let it cool down a minute, and then I'll show y'all what the radiator flush stuff looks like coming out of it. So all right, I got the coolant flush, radiator flush drained out. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, it's a little dingy, but nothing to warrant a problem, I don't think. There's definitely more coolant or liquid in there than it was when I first drained it. So I'm gonna lean towards, I'm gonna close this cockpit real quick. I'm gonna lean towards it was low. to start with, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the sensor and the thermostat. It should be under here. I got this hose pulled off. I thought I could spin that, but I can't spin that really because it's hitting the bracket for the exhaust. So, because the sensor's right here, I really don't want to take that loose from the head. I may have to, because there is no room to really get a wrench in here on this sensor. I may just have to pull it off the head. It's just these two bolts, so let me get this pulled off. Alright, so I got the housing off here, and the thermostat broke loose. I figure I'd just kind of show y'all what I find in real time here. The thermostat don't look just really bad. Not real sure here. I guess if I push it the right way. Let me get the new one and push on it. So I don't know, this old one definitely feels different. Yeah, I think it may just be the nature of the beast too, after it's been on there or gotten hot. I don't know, it just don't feel, it feels really hard to open for one thing. I don't think it should be that hard. And they got on here, it's 82 degrees Celsius, which is about like right at 180. It's actually like 179.6 or something like that, but we'll call it 180. And I do have a new gasket I'm gonna put on here. And there is another O-ring that's with that thing. I'm gonna look real quick to kind of see where it's supposed to go. Alright, so here's the old sensor. Got it out. And there's an O-ring that goes on the threads right there. I guess they put the O-ring in with the thermostat for some reason. I don't know. But this is where this was a bag with a thermostat in it. And the sensor had its own bag. Anyway. Let me get this thing on here. And I think that's the right O-ring. With my little screwdriver. Be careful not to cut it. Cut myself. I have stabbed myself more time with these little pocket screwdrivers than I care to admit. I used to keep them in my shirt pocket back when I did maintenance or worked in a factory. I was all the time bending over and stabbing myself. But I have fixed more things with these little screwdrivers than... It's amazing what you can fix with a pocket screwdriver or a pair of channel locks. That's how I made a living a long time. But anyway, alright, I got that on there. And I'm also going to screw that into the housing here. That screws into the housing right here. and I'm gonna get this back together. It kind of felt a little weird. Just going in there. So I'm gonna get this back together. There's a gasket right here. I hope it's okay. I didn't really send the one in the kit with it. Maybe it won't leak. There's a gasket right here where the water flows into the head, and this just sits in there like that, and then the sensor plugs in here. I'll have to spin this back around. So anyway, that's pretty simple. This gasket sits right there, and then the thermostat's got its own way of sitting in there like that. Like I said, this new thermostat definitely feels a lot easier than the old one. The old one, I just don't see how that's going to open. So let me get it back together. All right, I got all this back together. New sensor in, new thermostat. I think I'm ready now to close the cockpit. I think I'm ready to put the coolant in there, and I'm afraid I didn't get enough coolant, because the good trusty old internet says 2 gallon, and I think it's going to take closer to 3, maybe a little over 3. But I'm going to put what I have in there and see where I'm at. Alright, I got everything put back together, and it topped off with a fluid. I still got to put the cover on at the bottom real quick. I'm going to let it warm up, and then I'm going to take it outside and run it around the farm and see if I can make it alarm. Well, y'all, I just took it on its maiden voyage, and I think it's fixed. I just ran it around the farm for 10-15 minutes or so, good and hard, and it never alarmed. And I got it on hills and really steep inclines, left to right, trying to make it alarm, and it didn't. So I think I ran it long enough to make it alarm. I will know for sure tomorrow when I hook the bush hog up on it. And I checked for leaks. I don't see no leaks. I do need to get some new seals there. So anyway, I hope that it's fixed. And honestly, I think maybe I don't know, it could have just been low on coolant, which it just kind of makes me wonder why it didn't pull out of the overflow reservoir. To me, that's kind of what that's for there, to watch your levels. But then again, y'all let me know, this cap right here, to me, this thing should be able to breathe. You should be able to let fluid in and let fluid out. This cap, I had it off just a minute ago. This cap, to me, that's a little breather right there. But I can blow through either one of them, and I can't blow through it. To me, this thing should breathe. If not, then I don't know, but to me, that thing should breathe and let fluid in and out of that. Because I would always check this thing, and it never fluctuated, never. But the coolant was 2 different colors, so it tells me that it was never even pushing or pulling from that thing. And that may be why I was low in my actual radiator. But anyway, it's just, it could have been that, it could have been a sensor, it could have been a thermostat. I honestly think the thermostat wasn't even opening all the way. But I don't think any damage was done to the engine. I think that if it wasn't getting no coolant at all, that I would have done blown this thing up. It would have done lock smooth up. And I think the reason why I seen it more on an incline or whatever, left or right, whenever it would alarm, is because the coolant was low. And you get one way or the other, you know, it changes your level in your tank. But anyway, I hope that's got it fixed. So now the only other issue with it is going to be the high flow solenoid. And the question is, do I want to start it tonight, or do I watch TriStar Digging on YouTube?
Welcome to TriStar Digging. Appreciate you joining us today. This is day 2 of this clearing job here. Got a lot of work done yesterday. Got this whole corner area come out.